To start with, let me invite our distinguished Professor Christopher Impey to light the butter lamp. Next, I would like to request our Venerable Kagyu College monks to do the inaugural chanting prayers. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to request our Honorable Director, Geshe Haktola, to introduce the conference.
Venerable Sanghas, distinguished science and Buddhist scholars, respected invited guests and observers from various academic institutions. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for your presence during this second inaugural international conference on cosmology and consciousness that we have organized on the topic knowing and acting. It is my great privilege to welcome you all, and especially the eminent speakers who have come all the way to participate and share their knowledge and experience. At the outset, I would like to briefly introduce the conference and various activities related to the Monastic Science Initiative program that the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives has undertaken with the support of many other institutions and individuals. Out of various activities and responsibilities of the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives based in Dharamsala, today I would like to give a brief background account of the Monastic Science Initiative program that LTW is supervising for over a decade. Based on the overall vision and direction provided by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives has so far implemented the following programs. Library of Tibetan Works and Archives was given the responsibility and direction by His Holiness the Dalai Lama to look after giving science education to the monastics from different monasteries. So the Monastic Science Initiative was started in 1999. In the year 2000, the first 4-week science workshop was organized for 50 monk scholars with the seed, funding, and blessing from His Holiness's office. In 2001, the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives created a partnership with Sagar Family Foundation, Boston. And since then, yearly workshops were conducted under the project named Science for Monks. And the 50 monks that I mentioned earlier continued their yearly science workshop until year 2007. In the light of many changes and growing acceptance of science education among Tibetan monastic scholars, the need to take suitable steps were clearly seen. And two very important and in urgent need were science textbooks in Tibetan and English and science teachers. Thus, in the year 2008, a new science program called the Sagar Science Leadership for Monks was established, not simply as a continuation of Science for Monks project, but to produce science teachers and leaders who will work in their respective monasteries for successfully furthering the science education. For this, we selected around 30 monks out of the 50 monks that we mentioned earlier, based on their academic excellence during the past workshops. Under this program, the first cohort, consisting 30 monks, were graduated in the summer of 2010 after attending 6 special science leadership workshops. The second cohort of 34 monks and nuns were started in the summer of 2011, and I'm pleased to say that they have just graduated during this workshop here. Since the year 2000, around 40 Western science teachers have taught more than 250 monks and nuns under this program about physics, quantum mechanics, cosmology, biology, neuroscience, and mathematics, all with a strong emphasis on scientific inquiry. Under this program, we managed to prepare 4 science exhibitions in Dharamsala, Mandgord, New Delhi, which was inaugurated by His Holiness the Dalai Lama himself. And also we had a very successful exhibition in San Francisco in America in collaboration with Smithsonian, based in San Francisco and Washington, Washington, and Exploratorium based in San Francisco, Smithsonian based in Washington. We are organizing this exhibition in several places in Russia, including Moscow, Tuva, Kalmykia, Krasnodar, next year in September. In the year 2007, another very important collaboration was established between LTWA and the Emory University called the Emory Tibet Science Initiative. This initiative aimed at developing and implementing a comprehensive and sustainable science education program for Tibetan monastics. So far, this program has brought more than 30 science faculty members from Emory University to Dharamsala to teach and has developed 6 bilingual and illustrated science textbooks which are to be used in Tibetan monastics as science textbooks. The first year course was offered in 2008 to a class of 38 monastic students, and in 2009, second batch was selected for a class of 50 monastics, thus totaling around 90 monastic students in these 2 batches. For this new program, we made special effort to have more monks and nuns from various monastic institutions with good academic studies. Thus, we were successful in inviting monks and nuns from 21 different monasteries and nunneries. And in 2012 and 2013, the first and the second batch respectively completed their graduation successfully after attending a 1-month-long science workshop continuously for 5 years. In the year 2010, we were able to select and send 6 best monks having best academic performance to Emory University in Atlanta to study science for 3 years. It's wonderful news that after very successful completion of their 3 years study of science, they came back this year in June and now returned to their respective monasteries and taking the responsibility of teaching science as well as looking after running the science programs in these respective monasteries. This year, in 2013, we selected the second batch of 6 monks, and they're already in Emory University in Atlanta to study science for 2 years. And they spent 1 year in the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives studying English and computer. In the year 2011, we completed yet another very important 1-month pilot project, and this to introduce science to around 18 monastic graduates, Geshes, Kembos, and Lopons from 13 monasteries and nunneries. They also attended the 3-day international conference on Cosmology and Consciousness, which was inaugurated by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. These monastic scholars joined and helped in leading the panel discussion on the 5 themes of the conference at that time. Since these monastics are going to play extremely important role in shaping overall education system in their respective monasteries, we felt it will be very beneficial if we are able to regularly give such exposure to these monks who have already completed their Buddhist studies and who are all now playing important roles in their monasteries. This project is funded by John Templeton Foundation and also supported by Sagar Family Foundation and Exploratorium. Because of the very beneficial and successful completion of this pilot project, John Templeton has very kindly agreed to support this program for another 3 years, out of which in this is the first year. In this first year, we are having this 1-month long science study and the 3-day international conference on knowing and acting, and this is attended by 30 monastic graduates from different monasteries and nunneries. I'm glad that they're all learned scholars and they're all here. Most of these learned monks from various monasteries and nunneries have come from far-off distances in India, and 2 of them have come all the way from Canada and Australia on their own expenses. Like the above-mentioned science programs, this conference is also aimed to have the exiled Tibetan monastic community as well as others to engage science and to initiate science trainings that would eventually support new learning at the frontiers of science and Buddhism. Building upon His Holiness the Dalai Lama's long-term interest in engaging scientists in dialogue, this conference on the topic knowing and acting is yet another extension of their dialogue. The 3-day public conference will promote the integration of spiritual values and scientific investigations. Discussion will focus on how do we know, how to extend the knowledge, how to act, and so forth. This conference has brought together Buddhist scholars and Western and Indian scientists and classroom educators into dialogue about topics of not just mutual interest, but topics of great relevance to the well-being of the whole world. The details of the conference are there in the brochure, which we have already distributed. And my colleague, Dr. Bryce Johnson, will introduce the eminent speakers later on. Although Buddhism has little experience with the scientific theories of modern science, it has long inquired into the fundamental nature of substance and the nature of the mind. It has thought deeply about experience, inference, causality, and the proper role of the concepts and theories in our thinking. Even the long history of the physical universe has been the subject of Buddhist reflection, leading to remarkable views not unlike those being advanced today by cosmologists. The importance of knowledge, which is the focus of this conference, is duly recognized both by science and Buddhism. In fact, the word science means knowledge, meaning that many of your physically related sufferings can be removed if you have the proper knowledge. And Buddhism equally says the root of all suffering is ignorance, as such ignorance of any form, inborn or imagined, religious, philosophical, or scientifically acquired, must be removed, and correct, unmistaken knowledge must be cultivated. Thus, the knowledge must be, but what is important here to understand is that it should not be any kind of knowledge. It must be the correct and beneficial one. As Shantideva says, life is short and there are too many things to know. We do not know how long our lifespan is. As such, get what you really wish, just like the swans extract milk from water. So what we need is genuine knowledge and wisdom, and not just any kind of information. We need those knowledge and wisdom that would color our emotion, that moves our whole being, that makes us get up, go and do things for others. This is important based on our own current experience, that despite so much information and to some extent knowledge, things are not working in the way we want. Why is this so? Everyone expects some change, but the change is not forthcoming. What is the problem? We must accept the fact that with the scientific knowledge, we have addressed many problems, mainly related to the body, the physical. But it also has produced awful destructive weapons. No living man can today escape the beneficial as well as the bad results of scientific activity or technological production. The scientific and industrial age was inevitable if man was to go forward in the development of all his faculties, and not merely of some of them. We all know what a jungle of absurd superstition and parasitic custom suffocates the inner and outer lives of the inhabitants. But the fact is that the applied scientific paradise was one just for the head, which left the heart to stay outside. It was at the best a paradise for the body and left the spiritually and intuitive and morally sensitive parts of the man untouched. They did not realize that his ethical character, his actuating motives, his attitudes towards his fellow men, and above all, his understanding of life's ultimate ends are still the real power which drives the machinery provided by science. Modern history has shown what they forgot, that whenever man improved the external phase of life but did not retain his mental balance, he paid dearly for every such improvement. He wandered further away from the original center of his being with each step, so-called development. For every new facility which his inventive brain thought out, he paid by the loss of spiritual power. Everyone can see now that it still leaves his moral nature untouched, his animal nature ungoverned, his weakness of false paths undisturbed. Everyone can see that his house may be packed with machines and gadgets, shiny gadgets rather, but his heart may still remain empty of satisfaction. The notion of interminable progress, which was the dream at one point of the time, was one which science first flattered its devotees and now frightens its victims. It was attractive enough when the 13th century watched the passage from steam to electricity, but dreadful when the 20th century watched the progress of hand grenades into bomb. Each decade of the last 100 years has been more of pride but less of reverence, more of information but less of wisdom. We know more but only about things and less about ourselves, about the hidden purpose of life, about the world of inner reality. We do so little that really matters and so much that is comparatively trivial. The range of knowledge among the ancient philosophers was limited, but depth of the thought was not. Thus, it was possible for the more mystical among them to achieve this miracle, that with fewer facts at their disposal, they reached truer ultimate conclusions about the universe that we moderns have done, as well as a truer knowledge of the essential being of man. This need not surprise us if we remember that the same science which tells us that we must base our search for truth only on the facts adduced by the senses also tells us that the senses themselves are limited, unreliable, and imperfect. This does not mean to say that religion is the solution. Religions also have contributed to the well-being of people, but also produced blind faith, fanaticism, fundamentalism, and segregation and division. So I believe that what we need to change is not just science or technology or religion, but the change of heart, the change of the human being who uses all these knowledges at his disposal. The purpose of conference of this type is to endeavor to address the existing ills of the society, to come with a kind of spirituality that addresses the long-term and short-term needs of the whole globe and the humanity, and not just the needs of a small section of community in whatever name they are existing. And this can be achieved through gaining not only wider knowledge, but more larger perspective and more deeper knowledge of the basic reality. Time has come to shed narrow-minded parochialism and to help reduce the creation of ceaseless suffering, because all the man-made problems are basically unnecessary sufferings. We may not be able to solve the sufferings that come from natural disasters, but it is a shame if we are not able to deal with man-made problems. To reduce the creation of ceaseless suffering under various names and banners, which only shames the humanity and brings down the very stature of the higher forces in whose name they are doing this. It is all rooted in ignorance and misconception of the all-pervasive reality of the way things are. Buddhism talks about gaining a precise knowledge through the threefold process of hearing, thinking, and meditation. This basically means gaining beneficial knowledge in such a systematic way that you develop conviction in it and then have your life and mind totally conditioned and habituated with it. In this way, your knowledge becomes a regular part of yourself, and thus you will be able to walk the talk, do what you are talking. Advanced practitioners like the Buddha have been conditioned by the good thoughts and deeds, and thus doing good things comes to them automatically, effortlessly. Whereas in our case, we are conditioned by negative, afflictive emotions, so doing bad things automatically. So that clearly shows we need a drastic surgery, a drastic revolution. All the Buddhist teachers unanimously say that all the downfalls that we see in this world, in whatever form it is, are basically rooted in ignorance. The way to remove such ignorance is by gaining the knowledge of interdependence in every field. We are kind of extroverts, and thus very good in paying attention to what is outside. Be it playing a football, be it playing a music, or even in the case of scientists, they're very good in fiddling with the things that is there in the laboratory outside, but not so good in playing with the laboratory inside. The reason is what is inside of us, we hardly learn. And even if we learn, we do not practice. For example, we may know a lot of things about inner qualities like compassion, its definitions, its various types, but hardly endeavor to have it. Thus, we are devoid of such qualities. So what is the way out? There is no other way for both the primitives and moderns to come out of this situation than to readjust their attitudes in such a way as to restore the balance, the lost harmony. Both had to pay a heavy price for blind faith and blind skepticism. No one will understand the complex world problems aright if he does not see that these deep changes in the human problems are partly responsible for it. Modern progress has given the human character width without depth, fluency without wisdom. We've always tried to solve problem through patchwork solution. In Tibetan, I call it awhor gipasal lembajawa. So that will not solve the problem. If you let your whole immune system go destroyed. The activities of our external and surface progress blinds man's eyes to the truth that no civilization which fails to achieve balance between the materialism eventually causes it to wobble. Therefore, the great Buddhist scholars of the 6th century, Guha Garba Lope Sangye Sangwa of the 16th century, who was an eminent Indian scholar, a tantric practitioner, who was requested several times to visit Tibet. And then later on, he wrote a very lengthy letter advising the Tibetan kings how to behave, the ministers how to behave, the monks how to behave, the nuns how to behave, the laymen how to behave. So in one of his writings, he says, wherever you are born, high or low, in any of the 6 types of migrating beings, the one that is like a king is your mind, your natural awareness, which is really the powerful one. Therefore, he concludes by saying, amongst knowledge, the knowledge of the substance, the knowledge of the material things, knowledge of what is outside is a poor knowledge. Knowing the features, characteristics, and natures of your mind can be termed as the rich knowledge. In the similar tone, Gendu Chumbe, the famous Tibetan writer and thinker of the last century, also wrote in a similar vein where he says, this crazy mind, unable to recognize its own identity, and that's the problem. Not being able to recognize its own identity, the crazy mind is forever trying to measure the length and breadth of the religion, of the politics, whose extent is like the sky and the earth. And in this vain search for glory and knowledge, you take permanent refuge in these mistaken states and levels of knowledge. And he sarcastically says, indeed, you are a very courageous person, completely forgetting yourself. Time has come to replace belief by knowledge. The sole function of education is to open the way to thinking and knowing. But knowledge alone will not solve the problem. We are all very, very clear about it. Knowledge of what is does not open the door directly what should be. Objective knowledge provides us with powerful instruments for the achievement of certain ends, but the ultimate goal itself and the longing to reach it must come from other sources, which is very much related to conditioning the emotion. Therefore, in Buddhism, we talk about the importance of cultivating a fine, balanced harmony of compassion and wisdom. Wisdom and knowledge, if it is a genuine knowledge and wisdom, that wisdom and knowledge will be so powerful that it will, as I said earlier, it will it will color your emotion, meaning that it will shake you, your whole being. And then the surge of emotion in the form of loving kindness and compassion will be so strong that you cannot be just a spectator standing outside. You will naturally come out and do things for suffering people. To make clear the fundamental ends and valuations and to set them first in the emotional life of the individual is the most important function which religion and spirituality has to perform in the social life of man. For that, we need repeated and rigorous positive conditioning through constructive knowledge, which in Buddhism is called meditation. Short-lived attempt will lead us nowhere because our mind is so strongly entrenched in negative emotions that it will be extremely, extremely difficult to change it. I recall one ancient Tibetan master who used to scold his students. The student goes to the teacher, says, "Dear sir, I repeatedly spent a lot of time thought about the teaching that you gave, but I'm not changing." And the teacher scolds him by saying, "Don't tell a lie. I saw that in the whole day you are remaining distracted, and I saw you that in the night you are sleeping. So when do you endeavor to change yourself?" So we are something like that person. So the message is, if you wish to decondition or uproot the strongly entrenched negative impulses, you need sustained and deep thinking and meditation. We are just like a person who has been suffering from severe chronic illnesses. The chronic illnesses cannot be cured by just few doses or tablets of medicine. In the end, I wish this conference will contribute towards creating more awareness about gaining universal knowledge, and more importantly, to act in our various capacity in bringing about a more saner and peaceful world. So we need to walk the talk. I once again thank you all for joining us in our small endeavor to make our small contribution to the peace and harmony of the globe. And I know you have many tasks at hand, but you have seen the importance of such a gathering, and you are with us today in this inaugural session. I'm deeply, deeply thankful to all of you. And I would like to especially thank the director and the staffs of the Sungten Library for providing this beautiful venue and for giving us all the needed support. And similarly, the Kagyu College and others who had also extended their support whenever we asked. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Next, I would like to request Dr. Bryce Johnson to introduce the presenters.
Good morning. I would like just to quickly introduce our presenters for this next 3 days and also introduce the first session of the conference. Let us start with Geshe Tempa Pakchok. If you could just stand up for a moment so everyone can see you. Geshe Tempa Pakchok from Drepung Gomang Monastery. Next to him is Dr. Christopher Impey from the University of Arizona. And also Dr. Sonam Doma from Mensikang Medical Institute. Dr. Eric Chudler from the University of Washington. And Nishan Seth from the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies. Tomorrow you'll be hearing again from Geshe Lokter, the director of the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives. And next to him, a few chairs over, is Karma Tupten, translator at the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives. Gail DeBoer from the Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School. And Rajesh Kashiranjan from the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies. Also joining us tomorrow and the next day, two more presenters, Geet Oberoi from the Orchids Foundation and Bobby Sager from the Sager Family Foundation. We have a couple other guests I want to introduce. On the last day of the conference, you'll all be invited to see the premiere of an exhibition the leadership group has been working on. And two staff members from the Smithsonian Institution are here, Scott Schmidt and Tracy Spinelli. And they have been working very hard with the monks and nuns, helping them prepare the exhibition. Also here studying the program, helping us understand what we're doing and how to do it better, is Pam Castori. So she might have questions for you or interview for you later on, so please feel free to tell her your thoughts. And moderating this session is Dr. Eric Chudler.